Hi there, everyone. Welcome in to another edition of WAE News Extra. Here we are, 8:05. Wanted to start us off with this view from our SkyTrack network of cameras, and of course, the bright Friday night lights on. Say that 5 times fast. But a little bit of our preview. This is the best view we can get right now for those of you who might know somebody at the big game of the week, the TDFN game of the week. St. X versus Trinity, so high school football Titan matchup for sure. Make sure to stick around tonight for Wave News at 11 for the official TDFN breakdown of those highlights with our Kendrick Haskins, our Dusty Baker, the breakdown from the team, getting you the action after a very busy Friday night. Looking forward to a great weather weekend for more football, for more fun to be had outside in our community. And of course, our meteorologist, Ryan Hoke, is going to break that down for us, what we can expect and just how much we can enjoy what's about to come our way. I want to bring you in here to the studio. Appreciate you joining us, by the way. I'm Jose Sosaya, holding down the Wave Now desk, making sure we queue up the graphic correct. So we have a little bit of that dusky sky, although Ryan is pointing out, by the way, the sunset getting earlier as the further we advance into the season, and the year is going to wrap up as we get closer to December 31st, but just understanding the seasons and enjoying, whatever sunlight we do have as those sunsets start to wrap up a little earlier. We're going to dive right into some of the big stories of the day. We're beginning with a case we've been following in court where you might have heard us break the news Thursday afternoon that this was a guilty but mentally ill verdict for a man who was brought to trial for shooting a construction worker and then shooting and killing that construction worker, and then also shooting an off-duty LMPD officer who was there. So in turn, now the jury has recommended that Keyshawn Stewart serve 2 life sentences for what he did back in 2021. Again, the jury found Stewart guilty yesterday, but mentally ill on those counts of murder, criminal intent to murder, wanted endangerment, and evading police charges. Prosecutors say Stewart knew what he was doing when he shot and killed construction worker Fred O'Bannon and shot LMPD Sergeant Chris Lane. Lane survived the shooting, and he came to testify in court about what happened. Stewart's defense argued mental health providers failed him. Earlier today, we talked to O'Bannon's mother, and she shared just a little bit of the agony she has felt over the past 4 years.
I'm able to breathe. I've been grieving for 4 years. I'm able to breathe. I'm finally able to take a deep breath and not get hung here. So I'm able to breathe. Grievance forever.
Based on the jury's recommendation, again, the life sentences will run consecutively, meaning one after the other. Stewart's formal sentencing, that's not coming up until December 5th. In more news tonight, spreading a little further across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, a former UK athlete. It was a case, story that might have shocked everyone when the first initial bits of information came in. But she was charged in connection to her own baby, her own infant's death. Well, she was in court today. We do have images of that we want to share with you here. 21-year-old Laken Snelling arrested last month, days after this infant's body was found in a closet. This hearing lasted only 35 seconds. Snelling waived her right to a preliminary hearing and allowed the case to go straight to a grand jury. The case in earnest began August 20th when Lexington police got a call to go to an apartment complex for an unresponsive infant. A baby boy was pronounced dead when officers found his body. Court records say the child was found wrapped in a towel inside of a trash bag in a closet. The Fayette County coroner says there's more testing that needs to be done to determine the baby's exact cause of death, and the grand jury will now decide whether or not to indict Snelling. More tonight, LMPD wanted to share this new video they're publishing of a suspect they think injured 2 people in a shooting at a downtown Louisville apartment building. Take a closer look. It's a man on your screen running away from the shooting dressed in all black. At one point, I believe that might have been, let's check and see which video that is. So this would be the one from the complex over there, but I want to bring you back to the video from earlier, if you can see that. It was a suspect coming from the 800 building that's located in the top center of video I'm about to share you. And they say the suspected gunman changed clothes to avoid being caught. let me bring you back to another view of the scene where we were again. So that's a closer, tight image of who they think the suspect is. This was another vantage point we had of when that shooting was September 15th at the 800 Tower apartment building on South 4th Street. Police say 2 men were hurt. One victim, officers found them inside the building, another one found outside. Both men were taken to the hospital. They've since been able to leave. They survived and were treated. Police are asking, though, for any leads on who the man who you saw the image of, again, I'll play that for you in case this is just a refresher on that tight, close-up, zoomed image of who police say the suspect is they're looking for. Anyone with information, if you have any, call the department. You can talk and leave messages with the anonymous tip line or use their online portal. More stories tonight. The Louisville Cemetery is a place hundreds of people have come as a grieving space, a final resting place for their loved ones. It's also a place where people still have contracts, they have plans and plots for the future. But recently, a few people discovered the cemetery no longer has any staff to take care of said property, of what's going on out there. So our Julia Richardson spent some time trying to get in touch with the staff out there today and had just no luck. And last month, we told you how volunteers were coming to the cemetery to clean up themselves after noticing several grave sites were neglected. And they are the ones telling us all cemetery staff have been laid off. These are folks with family members buried at the cemetery. They haven't been able to get in touch with anyone in charge. They've been left to take care of the grave sites themselves. One person who Julia talked to, Shedrick Jones Jr., part of the National Association of Black Veterans, says he got a call from someone whose mom had a plot at the cemetery, and she unfortunately recently passed away, but they were trying to get in touch with the office to arrange the burial. But again, no one answered. And so the family is left to fend for themselves and now looking to pay for another burial place for their mother.
To find out that the doors was locked and the staff had been laid off and all the rest of that, it kind of created a panic with me because I start multiplying that by the number of people, other people that would be going through the same thing.
Jones even telling us now he hopes that state government can step in to try and remedy this. Our Wave News team called and stopped by the cemetery, again, physically trying to get someone to come out and talk. There was no one there to answer our questions either. Our newsroom did reach out to Attorney General Coleman's office. We're waiting to hear back from him on what would be next in this process. And a story I want to share with you tonight, just by the sheer, coincidence, the historical aspect of it, to dive back into an era since long gone, but also putting this family in a bit of a pretty precarious situation. Brandenburg residents actually all got a code red alert yesterday. The sheriff says when he described it was a pretty unusual reason why they had to issue this code red. Arlena Noakes tells us say that again. I trip my own tongue sometimes. It was a suspicious package that somehow was discovered. It turned out to be something that no one expected, least of which was the family on whose property this was found. So this was the report from our Alina Noakes.
The shed is often the home of the lost and forgotten, and that was the case for one Meade County family when it came to a chunk of metal they found in their front yard. This is where it sat until Thursday, when it suddenly created a multi-law enforcement agency response.
And what I was thinking is they evacuated us. This is a pretty new house. I don't think that bombs are covered under our insurance, so I was a little worried about the house.
Perhaps not a bomb, but it's doubtful an artillery shell falls under any deductible. Mandy Thomas and her fiance had no idea that's what their kids had discovered in their front yard several months ago.
They were just metal detecting. They do it all the time, actually, and came across it, took it to his dad, and his dad said, oh, that's probably just a thermos. So we just stored it away for, a year or so.
They even took it to a museum in Brandenburg, and the people there said something similar. Maybe it's just a piece of old farm equipment. But when he was clearing out the shed Thursday, Mandy's fiance snapped a quick picture and asked their AI app, ChatGPT, and the response he got back was anything but normal.
I think the wording was, I need to make this very clear. Please get away from it. Don't touch it. Call the authorities.
And they did, getting 2 Meade County deputies. And that's where things took a turn. Over the next 6 hours, this area was crawling with law enforcement. Many people evacuated as this alert went out. But the answer as to why didn't come until late Thursday night, when Fort Campbell officials carted off a destabilized, likely World War II era artillery round. Thomas says she was told it was likely fired, but never went off.
Now, we have four-wheelers, we have tractors, no telling how many times that thing was ran over or almost ran over. Anything could have. And they even said that just falling over could have set it off and took out at least the house, if not more houses.
Now that everyone's safe and no homes destroyed, Thomas can't help but find the situation just a little too on the nose.
My dad thought it was hilarious. A couple people on Facebook thought it was pretty funny. They said it's very on brand for us. So if that tells you anything.
So where was he thinking about placing it in the case?
I think he was just going to, clear out a spot and throw it in.
Maybe this shadow box in their living room.
It's a dinosaur tooth. We have some things that we found naturally.
Is some indication of what on brand really means.
Historic for sure. Arrowheads he loves. Pretty much just anything that has a story, a conversation starter, I would say.
You can be sure the story behind this find is one that will be sticking around. Alina Noakes, WAVE News.
All right, thanks to Alina for that report. Thankfully, nothing too serious to have to worry about, and this will certainly be a conversation starter for that family for years to come. Shout out to Ann Anderson joining us from the stream on YouTube. Good evening, Ann. And unfortunately, no more beautiful sunset to appreciate here. Now it's just the bright stadium lights at LNN Stadium there where the Cardinals normally play. But tonight, again, the premier game of the week, TDFN matchup of St. X and Trinity. And as I said, tonight, make sure to join us for the Night Owls. Want to break down those highlights with our WAVE sports team with Kendrick Haskins and Dusty Baker. We'll certainly be looking forward to that. Coming up after the break, want to show you all some new copies of some police body cam video we have from down in Versailles. It's an older case. It was back in August, but we'll break down how these would-be burglars at the Castle and Key distillery eventually got caught. The officers down there did have to give a little bit of a chase, but just a little bit of that exchange and some background information on what this case ultimately was as police described it. So we're going to take a quick break to reset, get that ready for you. We'll be right back with much more WAVE News Extra. Welcome back in, everyone. 8:19 on this Friday evening, September 26th. Appreciate you joining us here in the Wave Now studio for a Friday edition of Wave News Extra. Something brand new to share with you all tonight, because we did get a copy of this video from Versailles Police, their body cameras, a little earlier in the afternoon. Wanted to share with you all for the first time, just kind of dissecting this tonight on the live stream and on the Wave Now app. It's a case maybe you all have heard about what happened down recently in Versailles. It wasn't in this month of September, but not too long ago. And it happened at a pretty recognizable brand for its spirits and gin, everything in between, could be some bourbon. It's a Castle and Key, and their facility they have down there. This was actually something that started pretty lively with a celebration, because it was a wedding that wrapped up on August 23rd. But just when the distillery staff thought the night was over, they quickly realized they were going to be there pretty much all night. In essence, they called Versailles Police to let them know the distillery security had found out as well that there was a manhunt for 4 men who were discovered to be from Cincinnati. They presumed they were all under the influence, but ultimately they were caught on camera breaking into the facility and leading officers on a pretty chaotic chase across the property. What I'm about to show you is a clip that we could export, and just to give you an idea of where the officers and security team had to go through thick bushes, trees, brush, just to find these guys as they ran away. And this was after they caught one of them, and they're dragging one of these suspects back out into the clear to account for them and try to get any of the information they could. So here's some of that video I wanted to show you all. And you're seeing officers from his perspective. Ahead of you, there's 2 of the suspects that Versailles Police ultimately caught. Now, when I said 4 men, it turned out one of the men in another clip was so over having used so much alcohol, it seems, that he was so extremely under the influence that he just kind of stayed in the car, was so inebriated that could not really do much, and it was a struggle for him to even stand up. But in essence, this was Versailles Police escorting these guys out of the pretty wooded, very covered area. And the names of the 3 men who ultimately are facing charges: 20-year-old Gabriel Renier, 19-year-old Justin Link, and 20-year-old Christopher Collins. According to police, they're the ones who were seen on security video breaking into the distillery to steal a bottle of bourbon. So again, this is body camera video that Wave News was able to acquire. As police described it to us, the suspects, quote, scattered like cockroaches when officers arrived after learning about what went down, and officers then were the ones to try and chase them through the darkness. They're describing the would-be alleged burglars as intoxicated, but they also caused significant damage, which you're not seeing here in this part as they kind of bring them back out into the open, where police had kind of set up, and you've seen that security golf cart there as well. Police in their arrest report describing there was a delivery truck that was damaged. These guys tried to escape using the Castle and Key golf cart. They damaged the ignition of the process. Officers also discovered apparently what was a TV that was also damaged. It was sitting in the grass. It's a pretty, not super paved terrain where Castle and Key has their operation. So you could see as evidence, there's kind of a ravine, very secluded, untouched by any other development. So it was a challenge for the officers to try and find him. What you're actually seeing in that bit was them telling another one of the suspects to climb out of that ravine, out of the ditch, to come back. And there he's being told, get on the ground, hands behind his back. The chase, again, who you're seeing, I believe, in that frame is the suspect, Gabriel Renier. He was the one who was caught first, in fact, facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of burglary, criminal mischief, possessing of burglary tools, public intoxication, fleeing from law enforcement. He was telling police at some point in their interactions that he was in Anderson County before, quote, spontaneously deciding to drive to the distillery after nearly 2 hours of looking. Who you saw earlier were officers who tracked down both Collins and Link hiding in nearby bushes. Both faced similar charges like burglary, possession of the tools, and fleeing or evading law enforcement. So again, as I mentioned, there was a 4th person. He was passed out drunk, charged with simply the alcohol misdemeanor. And apparently there was a 5th person seen on camera, but that they managed to escape. So whoever that was, police still haven't accounted for who that could have been, even after presumably having interviews with the suspects and the defendants. The day after the break-in, Versailles detectives returned to look. Actually, thanks to a GoPro camera the suspects left behind, actually, police say they were able to ID the fifth suspect. They gathered some additional evidence. Versailles Police Chief Rob Young praised officers for their commitment in this extensive search to find the suspects, as he was describing it, calling it a costly lesson for the culprits who now face serious felony charges for one officer described as a, quote, dumb decision. In fact, I want to play you a bit of that interaction that Collins and Link had at some point after they were pretty much put in handcuffs, and see if we can bring that up very quick.
With you guys, we're cooperative. We're not going to disrespect you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I rolled up on them when I saw them. I said, "I said, boys, get up."
And we just hands up.
Yeah.
We're not going to.
So why didn't y'all just come out an hour ago? Could have saved the ball.
If we didn't get caught.
Y'all wouldn't have got away. I mean, maybe not today, but y'all would have been arrested eventually.
So yeah, perhaps not taking the situation as seriously as the charges would suggest, at least based on the interaction that Collins, I believe, was the person talking to officers there, as if to say, based on the body camera video, that's saying they didn't come out earlier because they had not been caught. But police would have not, they wouldn't have desisted. They would have kept going, persisting and trying to find these guys out there. And even after the sun would have come up, and have the daylight to their advantage to find them for what they were caught, presumably on the body on the security camera video, having done. So it's certainly a very interesting case. The body camera footage sort of tells a lot more of the tale of just how complicated the search ended up being for Versailles police officers. Whatever comes out of court for these men in the end, I'm certainly certain it'll be something that we will keep tabs of here at the WAVE News Desk and across the WAVE News newsroom. Not that we, of course, we'll check in with our partners who would be covering out there in Versailles as well. Coming back here to Louisville, Mayor Craig Greenberg confirmed that he has picked his official choice for independent monitor to observe how Louisville Metro Police enacts its reforms as promised by that community consent decree. Greenberg in the end selecting a group that's called ELEFA, not sure how that's said exactly, but it stands for Effective Law Enforcement for All. WAVE News reporter David Mattingly went to break down ultimately why this was the mayor's choice, what would have convinced Metro government to pick this independent monitor over the other. So this is from David's report today.
It came down to two closely matched candidates. In a press release, Mayor Greenberg said what tipped the scales were the results of a community survey. And even then, it was still very close. With a single point advantage over a single competitor, a community survey gave the green light to ELEFA, Effective Law Enforcement for All. The choice gets a thumbs up from the only Metro Council member on the scoring committee, Ken Herndon.
They had also done some work with Montgomery County, Maryland, who, like Louisville, is doing a voluntary monitor system, not court-ordered.
As the city's independent monitor, ELEFA is now tasked with overseeing reforms in LMPD, a department that historically demonstrated it could not police itself. ELEFA's selection reflects a commitment to those reforms after the Trump administration dropped a pending consent decree. Immediate reaction includes hopes that the monitor going forward will also be observing the parts of the community most affected by previous police violations.
Because it's different when you're actually talking to a community and different people that has been impacted by some of the bad actors.
On its website, ELEFA says its goal is to achieve policing that is effective, respectful, restrained, and above all, safe for the public and the police. What the independent monitor ultimately observes will be made public. And already there are questions about how City Hall will handle the findings.
But ultimately, somebody's got to decide who's going to make LMPD do what is necessary in the event that there's a conflict.
ELEFA did not respond to our request for comment. LMPD released a statement in favor of the selection. David Mattingly, WAVE News.
All right, thanks to David for that update. And here we are, 8:29. We do have more stories to share with you as we wrap up this Friday night. Going to be the last Friday in September with some more stories and updates to share with you. I'm looking at the list of things to share, so make sure you stick around. Part of that is going to be a profile as Racing Lou. So we have professional soccer for men and women here in the city, and a rookie kind of making a pretty big impression for the Racing Lou squad, something our Tawana Andrew has put together to share with you all. A heritage parade, a global heritage parade at Newcomer Academy that our photojournalists want to be there to sort of capture the mood and the atmosphere of the party. So something we're going to play coming up next as well. And some more stories to share with you as we're kind of winding down our Friday night. So hope you stick around. It is coming up on 8:30. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with much more of tonight's Wave News Extra. $8:32 on this Friday night here on Wave News Extra. Always appreciate you joining us through the Wave News Wave Now app on your smart TV devices, or joining us on the social media stream. And some good news to share, an update on Derby winning jockey Brian Hernandez Jr. He is now home, recovering after his pretty serious, nasty fall at Churchill Downs last weekend. In our then exclusive conversation with Wave, Hernandez told us he was released from the hospital. He told us yesterday afternoon. This was after our exclusive conversation. If you remember, in our reporting, we shared that he was pretty seriously hurt Sunday, falling off a horse he was riding named Sergeant Garcia. Hernandez fell off. He was rushed to the hospital with several broken ribs, a collapsed lung, lacerated liver. He's had several surgeries since then to fix his ribs and the internal bleeding that was happening. Now Hernandez will continue to recover at home, and the hope is that he will be back in the saddle racing eventually. I want to bring you all to speed on an update for drivers. Work zones on Kentucky highways, they're going to get some high-tech upgrades to keep construction crews safe on the job. I want to show you the map that kind of illustrates where this is going to go on. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet says it's going to install automated speed enforcement cameras in several parts of I-64 in Shelby County. So you see where that stretches, I-64 relative to Simpsonville and Shelbyville there. It's part of a new law created to protect highway workers. So that is the ultimate reason. Drivers are going to notice new signs going up in that part of the interstate and of town, letting you know it is a monitored zone. Enforcement will start in earnest in October. Anybody caught speeding through a highway work zone would get ticketed by a waiting police officer based on the data that they get from the speed detector. One violation could lead to a $500 charge, the fine there. Kentucky State Police are going to oversee the enforcement in the first zones that are going to get this technology. If you woman whose body was found. She was murdered near the Shawnee boat ramp earlier this month. The new suspect, was, at least to our knowledge, someone under 18. The suspect is a juvenile, so we don't know their name. That's not going to be information we're able to get quite yet. But they are charged with receiving stolen property, abusing a corpse, and tampering with evidence. The victim, 32-year-old Rachel Hughes, she was shot multiple times September 14th. Investigators say this new juvenile suspect did not shoot her, but did help drag her body into the woods and driving Hughes's car away from the scene. A reminder of who the alleged shooter is still. Michael Bullock, who was taken into custody, already been arrested. He's facing several charges that include murder, robbery, and abuse of a corpse. I'll bring you back in here to the studio, just to kind of go into the what's good sort of section and sort of, I have to call it a bit of a palate cleanser, but wanted to share this story with you as we'll head into this break. And talking about Racing Louisville, because you've heard that success the team is having, along with how Lou City is also building its momentum in their respective leagues in the regular season, looking for that postseason getting to know a lot of the players on Racing's side. And she met one of the team's rookies, Sarah Weber, ahead of this weekend's home match. And so this was part of their conversation.
Weber in! Sarah Weber! Her first NWSL goal!
When it came, I think in the game, it was like super crucial. So I was just really excited that like that had put our team ahead. I think I was just so happy because it was also like almost a big sigh of relief.
With a game-winning goal and 2 assists, Sarah Weber is making a mark during her rookie season.
Coming in like from Nebraska, like being able to have the opportunity to score quite a few goals, like I really wanted that first one. So to get that kind of allowed me to take a breath of fresh air. I'm like, okay, like you do belong in this league.
While she has found success on the field, it's about more than the game for the Nebraska native.
That's ultimately why I do it, because I enjoy the sport. God has given me so many talents to play, so I want to make sure that I'm using those to the best of my ability, but also like enjoying everything, like the highs and the lows. I think it's so important, and it just keeps the game in perspective, really.
The 22-year-old is keeping that joy in sight as Racing aims for the playoffs.
The season itself is very long, but making sure that I'm finding those little joys in life that, just keep me happy and keep me loving what I'm doing on the field.
Tawana Andrew, WAVE News.
For any fans, Racing is playing Angel City at Lent Family Stadium. It's going to be, to my knowledge, it's supposed to be tomorrow night at 7:30. It's Pups at the Pitch, where fans are encouraged to bring their dogs out to enjoy that. They'll be handing out bananas and special treats. The Kentucky Humane Society will also be there with adoptable puppies if that is something you so choose to add into your home. So make sure, just following that action. It's something this Wave Sports team is always on top of. Thanks again to Tawana sitting down there with Sarah Weber. We're going to take a very short break to come back and round out the last bit of news and updates we have for you tonight on Wave News Extra. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back into tonight's edition of WAVE News Extra. Some more quick headlines to share with you. The FAA, once again, letting Boeing certify the safety of some of its own aircraft. So perhaps something that was on your mind with a pending trip, whether that was going to be for fall break or looking ahead to Thanksgiving and for Christmas. Well, in 2019, if you remember back then, the administration revoked Boeing's ability to issue airworthiness certificates for 737 MAX planes following, if you remember back then, again, those two deadly crashes. The FAA made the same decision 3 years later for 787 Dreamliners because of supposed production quality issues. But today, however, this all changed. The FAA told Boeing that they can start issuing certificates for their aircraft again, but only on alternating weeks. The FAA says they will still be issuing safety certificates the other weeks. The agency also said, despite the changes, it will still maintain rigorous oversight of Boeing's production process. Perhaps in the mold of travel and/or just that sort of kind of holiday travel fun, the Six Flags in Texas has some big plans for this new roller coaster. And take a look at the mock-up and the new name. It's going to be called Tormenta Rampaging Run. So we'll see if we can bring it back up once the mock-up, the simulation is there. But in essence, once it's done, it would set 6 new world records and create a totally new ride category. That is what the engineers and designers are hoping it accomplishes. A giga coaster that would reach 309 feet tall before it drops into a record 95-degree drop. We're going to loop back to the video, and you can see the site there at Six Flags over Texas. So I'm going to probably... we'll see if we can pause and get a sense of the scale of this roller coaster. We'll pause it right there really briefly. But in essence, riders will reach top speeds of 87 miles an hour, experience the tallest vertical coaster loop in the world per the designers at 179 feet. The Tormenta Rampaging Run is set to open sometime next year. Certainly would be something. If y'all out there are any roller coaster enthusiasts, I will include myself in that group. It'd be something if you all have a list of those favorite roller coasters and comment on that on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X. I just want to see where that list might be. And if there's some that I haven't ridden before, could be something to add to the list, perhaps on those longer weekends, let's say. We're going to wrap up tonight with what was a parade of colors, chants, cheers, something very festive. It was at Newcomer Academy here in Louisville today for their Global Heritage Parade at the school. WAVE News photojournalist Marty Pearl takes us inside to get a glimpse at just how much fun this was.
So today is part of our global homecoming celebration. Diversity and richness really adds to our community, and it just helps us to be stronger and smarter and keep evolving as a community. Students are super excited about this. Today, we've been talking about the parade all week. Students will be parading through the building. We have about half of our students are part of the parade. Today, it's countries that start with H through Z. Yesterday, we had A through G, and then the other half of the students, of course, will be cheering each other on. It's really inspiring. They're all positive. They're so proud of who they are, and they're cheering each other on. Very diverse staff, and of course, all of our students are multilingual learners. So today is part of our...
Let's bring you back into the... see if we can go back. Sometimes trying to set up for the website. So as a reminder, we have everything here at your fingertips at the click of a mouse on the homepage of wave3.com. Of course, you see all the branding of Touchdown Friday night. It's going to be big for us to recap those highlights whenever the games wrap up. But the big stories of the day you can see here kind of at the very top. And if you scroll down again, all those top headlines, updates on not just the breaking news, but our own investigations and feature pieces and interviews on things happening right here in our community, all there at your disposal, right there on the wave3.com website. And a reminder, if anything is happening out there in the community, to get those latest updates sent straight to your phone, you could sign up for those push alerts on the Wave News app itself or on the Wave Weather Now app. Now, I will say, as we take a look back outside, nothing to have to worry about. It's a clear night, and at least from this point of view, from our SkyTrack network in South Louisville, that camera where we cannot, unfortunately, hear the cheers and or sighs and the gasps of suspense for tonight's featured matchup of St. X and Trinity. But we'll certainly be looking forward to breaking down those highlights. Always appreciate everyone's time joining us, whether that is through the streams on Facebook, Twitch, X, YouTube, or on the Wave Now app for sure. We're going to be back next Monday, recapping, of course, any news that happens over the weekend, but we'll have the team here working hard to make sure, checking in with you and sharing that information and stories as they happen. We'll be back in the studio at around 8:05. Always appreciate your time. I'm Jose Sosaya. Until then, take care. Enjoy your Friday night and have a good weekend.